You are listening to the Courageously Unconventional podcast. If you want to change your life and start living on your own terms, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Lynn Grogan. I'm a certified life coach, and I want to help you take action toward creating your own unconventional life. Each week, I'll share inspiring and unconventional stories from those who have gone before you, as well as actionable steps you can take to start your own unconventional path today. Let's go! Hey there, welcome back to the Courageously Unconventional podcast. I'm your host, Lynn Grogan, and today I want to talk about all those emotions that come up when you're making changes in your life, whether you're starting a new habit, you're making a big life decision, or you're just stepping into the unknown. So recently I was reading a book called The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran and Michael Lennington, and they referenced something called the emotional cycle of change, and I was like, whoa, like this is something that everyone needs to know about because it normalizes what you're experiencing when you're going through changes. So I'm going to break these down for you today. So in summary, the emotional cycle of change was developed by psychologists Kelley and Daryl Conner, and it explains what happens emotionally when you choose to make a decision to change your life. So if you're like me, it can sometimes feel like you're riding a roller coaster of emotions when you take on something big. But according to Kelley and Conner, it is not as chaotic as it seems. The emotions that come up are actually quite predictable, and I happen to agree with them. Like, I've seen these stages play out in my clients, and I have experienced them myself. So that means if you know ahead of time, before you even get going, what you're going to go through, you can map it out for yourself so that when you're, say, in stage 3, the valley of despair, you know that means to keep going instead of quitting on yourself. All right, let's get going. So stage 1 is called uninformed optimism. So this is where most of us begin with our goals, and I'm guessing that this is something that will sound familiar to you. So you decide you're going to do something that will help you improve your life in a lot of ways. You're excited about how amazing things are going to be, and you're saying to yourself, man, why didn't I do this sooner? This is great. I think this is best recognized when people decide to get healthier. So maybe they join a gym or they start a new meal plan to help them lose weight, and it feels so good to get started. There's like this burst of energy, and you're able to see all the upsides and not many of the downsides. You're brainstorming, you're having a ton of ideas, and you just can't wait to get going. Sometimes we call this like the honeymoon phase. But unfortunately, this phase doesn't last too long before we get to the next stage, which is called informed pessimism. I'm laughing because this definitely comes up for me, and I'm sure it comes up for you. But this is where reality starts to creep in, and you shift from excitement to doubt. You're thinking, oh no, what did I get myself into? This is when you start to hear that critical voice that says, what makes you think you can really do this? You've failed before. You're probably just going to quit on yourself. You begin to question whether the changes are even worth it. But despite the doubts, the benefits are still appealing enough to keep you moving forward. Or if the benefits have faded, maybe you just spend a pile of money, or you told everybody you were going to do it, and to save face, you keep going. Which brings us to the third stage. I feel like I need a little dun 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 before this one. It's called the Valley of Despair. And I know that sounds dramatic, and that's because it feels dramatic. Like it feels really, really like kind of a downer. This is the stage where most people give up because it's filled with discomfort and frustration and setbacks. It's the point where you're working toward your goal and everything seems like overwhelming or just too hard. You're thinking it would be easier to just go back to your old ways, even if they weren't ideal. At least they were easier than this. So maybe you've just received your 8th rejection for a job and you're like, oh, why bother? I'll just stay in this old job. Or it's a cold and rainy Sunday morning and you're supposed to do a 12-mile training run and you're thinking, do I really want to do this? Or you're at a party where everyone is just devouring pizza, but you're eyeing your normal, boring salad and you're like, oh, couldn't I just go back to eating like everyone else? This is the point in pursuing your goal where your why becomes crucial. You need a compelling and meaningful reason for pushing forward. You need to spend time remembering your vision for the future. Why is it more important to keep going rather than going back to the comfort of your old life? Who will you become on the other side of this if you work through all these challenges? This is where your commitment, your solid commitment to your goal is tested, because it does seem easier to stop than keep going. But when you're in this tough stage, it helps to look back at other times in your life when you've achieved something that seemed impossible. So maybe it was landing your dream job, or completing the marathon, or like making it through medical school. Remind yourself that you're capable of doing hard things because you've done them before. And if you can get through the valley of despair, you arrive at stage 4, which is informed optimism. So this is where it gets better. So this is the stage where success feels almost inevitable. You're starting to see the positive results of your consistent habits, and many of the actions that once felt difficult, they're now becoming routine. It's like success is on the way and you're just waiting for the package to arrive. You may even start to feel grateful that you pushed through the tough parts, because now you're feeling so proud of yourself. You can see the changes in yourself, and maybe others are commenting on it too. And that optimism, that feeling, makes it so much easier to keep going. And if you keep going, which at that stage you're much more likely to do, that brings us to the final stage of the emotional cycle of change, which is success and fulfillment. So at this stage, you're fully experiencing the benefits of your hard work and your behavior shifts. The struggles and costs that once seemed overwhelming, they're now in the past. You've reached a new normal for yourself. You're genuinely transformed, and it would be nearly impossible to go back to who you were before. You're living the results of what you once only could imagine. You did it. You once had a vision for success, and now you've reached it. So there you have it, the emotional cycle of change. So whether you're in that very initial glow of optimism or you're trudging through the valley of despair, remember that it's all part of the process. Nothing has gone wrong if you're feeling negatively about anything. You just have to keep moving forward. And the best part is, every time you complete the cycle from uninformed optimism all the way to success and fulfillment, you increase your capacity to do it again. You build confidence in yourself. And with that, you're better equipped to do it again and again and again. So I hope this episode helps anyone who's feeling a little lost right now, or thinking of giving up, or not even starting in the first place, especially if you're finding yourself in the valley of despair. I promise you, if you keep going and you don't quit on yourself, what's waiting on the other side is absolutely worth it. So thank you for listening to today's episode of the Courageously Unconventional podcast. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend. And if you're curious about life coaching and you want to experience it for yourself, sign up for a free one-on-one private coaching session with me at lynngrogan.com, or click the link in the show notes. Your first session is free. Until next time. Hey friend, thank you for listening to today's conversation. If you're considering a major career or lifestyle change and you want to talk to someone about this, I'm here for you. You can learn how to work with me one-on-one on my website, which is lynngrogan.com, and I also have details in the show notes. See you next time.